Did you know that there are hundreds of commercial plugins built with HISE? In this video, we're going to have a little showcase and take a look at some of the best examples. So this first one is Mandala by mantra.io. And this is an engine type plugin that loads expansion packs. So the user installs the plugin once, and then to get different instruments and sounds, they install expansions, and the player itself is free. So you can go on their website, download it. I think there's some free expansions as well. And the thing about Mandala that makes it unique is its interface. So all the interfaces are these vector-based animated interfaces, and they're all based around three controls, an X, Y, and a Z. So all the different instruments have these same controls, these macro controls, and they have a whole bunch of expansion packs covering all different types of sounds. So you can see a few here. So this is the Aztec death whistle that we're looking at, and there's loads of others. And in fact, if we scroll right up to the top of the page and go to the main menu here, you can see all these different virtual instruments. And they also have some effects plugins as well. Just like the instruments, the effects have really interesting interfaces as well and follow the same idea of having three overall macro controls, these X, Y, and Z axes, to give the user control over a deeper set of parameters. I actually built the initial version of Mandala, so I'm really quite familiar with its inner workings, and it's a lot of scripting in there. It's a very complex project. That was a while ago, and the latest version and their effects are built by their own in-house scripter, and she's doing a fantastic job with it. Next we have Cube by Lunacy Audio. And this is a great example of pushing the boundaries with HISE. The 3D GUI elements were created with C++, and I think they're using some shaders in there, I'm not 100% sure, but they have this lovely 3D interface, and then they've managed to incorporate that into HISE so they can use HISE's audio engine and MIDI system, and they've tied it all together using scripting. Next up we have Zack Sounds, and they have effects and instruments. I really like the interface for the particles effect. I love this animation in the middle. So they also have some really nice instruments, and they're using their Raises player. So similar to what Mantra is doing with their Mandala player. And actually we can click on the link for that. And you can see it tells us a little bit about it. Create, modulate, perform. And then it shows the expansions that are available. And these are using a consistent template for each expansion. So they have the same basic layout. And that's a really nice way to work. If you're going to create a lot of instruments that share things in common, having a reusable template is really good. Whether or not you're using expansions, if you could just be creating separate plugins, but having a template that you can reuse, that's going to steer you towards having a consistent interface across your product range. And that's great for customers. It gets them familiar with it really easily, and they can find their way around when switching between different instruments. And it also helps to build your brand identity. People will see one of your plugins and know straight away that it's yours. They'll recognize the brand, they'll recognize the player, and they'll know what to expect. Next up, we have Felt Instruments, and the GUI for these is gorgeous. It's really minimal. Let's open one up so you can see they have these really minimal interfaces, but they're really, really nice. So super sleek, super simple. So there you go, you can see the interface for one of the instruments like that. And there's a cohesive style going on here. So this is for one of the instruments. Let's go and take a look at a different one. So we can see a consistency across the design of the instruments. The interfaces are pretty much the same with some slight variations for whatever unique capabilities each instrument has. If we compare the simplicity of Felt Instruments interfaces to something like Cube with the 3D interface, it just shows the breadth of possibilities available in HISE. And if you didn't know that these are all built using HISE, you couldn't tell by looking because they're all so different to each other. And that's one of the great things about working with HISE is you're not tied to just a single look and feel. You can be really creative and expressive and give your plugins an absolutely unique look. The next one we're going to take a look at is Goran Grooves. So we can see they have a collection of these handy drum instruments, and they're all using the same template project underneath. And again, it's a common thing you're going to see with plugin developers, especially those working in HISE, is you create your plugin once, you design it all, and then for each separate instrument, you just swap out the samples. And it's a really fast way to work. And it means if you find a bug in your plugin that you need to fix, or you want to upgrade it and add new features, You only have to do it once and you can easily apply it across your entire range of plugins. Now we're looking at NightFox Audio, so they're quite an innovator in creating unique instruments with HISE. Once again, we're seeing a plugin template. You can just see the similarity in the GUI between the different products to know that they're using a base template and customizing it for each of their releases. So let's open one of these up. Let's go for this one, String Central. So there you go. We can see the interface there with some violins in the background. We can see they've got an arpeggiator here. Over at the side, they've called it a pattern builder. And then if we open up another one of those products, let's go to this brass stacks one. We can see it's using the same basic thing, slightly different background to the interface, but we've got the same pattern builder, same modulation tables, etc. So they're using that template plugin system. So as you're developing your project, see if you can make them reusable so you can create templates just to save you time in the future. You only have to do the scripting once and you can just keep reusing it, improving it and building on it. So now we're looking at NoiseAsh, and they're a bit different to the developers we've looked at so far. They're focused on recreations of hardware effects, and their plugin interfaces reflect that aesthetic. So we can see it's a mix of the skeuomorphic hardware look combined with elements of flat design, and it's really nice, really unique. And again, you wouldn't know that this is using HISE behind the scenes. It's using the same system that Cube is using, that Felt Instruments is using, and that Mandala is using, etc. So again, beautiful interface design. And you really see this across HISE developers, is they take the time to create beautiful interfaces and unique interfaces. I've never seen a HISE plugin that has a bad interface, because I think all developers want to make it the best they can. And especially HISE developers, because they have the freedom to work with vectors, work with animations, and work with images, they really like to take advantage of that and put in the time and effort to make great interfaces. Okay, this is Sampleson, and they make really, really gorgeous plugins. I know I keep going on about how much I like the interfaces for all of these plugins, but Sampleson, they do something a little different. Every single plugin seems to have a slightly different interface. That I don't think they're using a template plugin, but just look at this, really unique flat design, absolutely gorgeous, very minimalist here. But then we'll take a look at another one of their products. So here we see a totally different design style. There are some elements that they keep. They tend to put the logo in the top right corner and have some drop-down menus, but the background, the knobs, that's all different. If we find, there's one I'm looking for that, this is it. So this plugin is really unique. You can actually take physical objects, like it says here, like a jar or a plate, and make it sound like a percussion instrument using the microphone input to excite a physical model within the plugin. So it's a really unique concept, and I haven't seen anybody else do this kind of thing. So every plugin has a different look with Sampleson, but they retain the same design language across their whole range. So everything sort of ties together and has a cohesive branding. Okay, this one is Waves Alchemy. You've probably heard of these guys. I worked with them actually to build a template project for some of their effects, and then they've modified it and used it across their range of plugins. So once again, we're seeing a really nice skeuomorphic interface design. This is built using a mixture of images, icons, and vectors. So with HISE, you're not limited to just one system for building your interface. It doesn't have to be just images or just CSS or just vectors. You can mix and match for different parts of the interface of the same plugin to get the design you want and get the behavior you want. So Wave Alchemy have a mix of instruments and effects. So this is their sort of flagship instrument here, Trias, or Trias, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. And then they have some effects as well. And this is what I worked with them on to build a template that they could reuse and adapt for their different effects. Next up, we have Reach by Sinus Labs. And as it says there, this is a contemporary reverb and multi-effects toolkit. We can see he's got this nice sort of animated waveform for the EQ. And again, an interface that's totally different to anything else we've seen. It's nice to see this one's been published for Linux as well as Windows and macOS. So here's another one of their plugins. This is KO. It's a saturation plugin. And you can see, although the interface is totally different to Reach, it's still got the same vibe about it. You can tell it's from the same developer. Next we have Perk X by Audict, and this was actually built by Christoph. He worked with Audict to develop this plugin and do all the scripting behind it. One of the nice things about Christoph working on big projects like this is he ends up writing a lot more features into HISE and finding bugs and fixing them, that kind of thing. And he gives us these products that we can then sort of look at as showcases for the possibilities of HISE. So really nice interface. Once again, totally different to anything we've seen so far. So you can see it's like a multi-track drum system where you have different loops on different tracks and you can chop them up and move them around. And this was one of the first commercial HISE plugins to use the expansion system. So the idea is you install Perk X and then you can download different expansion packs to go along with it. I'm not sure if this was built using just HISE scripting and images or if there's some C++ going on here as well. Knowing that Christoph is behind it, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some C++ in there with HISE scripting connecting everything together. And finally we have Libre Wave. This is my website and I have a player plugin called Rhapsody, which you can download for free. And it's open source, so you can go and look at the source code as well if you want to. And then I make expansion packs for it. So here's the UI for Dulcius. This is a Persian dulcimer library. And I avoid using images in my designs if I can, because when you use an image, it limits what you can do in terms of scaling, because as soon as you stretch an image to fit a larger screen or compress it to fit a smaller screen, you're going to get some distortion, maybe pixelation, that kind of thing, and you'll lose some sharpness. So everything that you're seeing here is done using vector graphics and paint routines within HISE, so it's all made with scripting. There are no image files here. And this one is my El Mariachi library. So this is a collection of mariachi style instruments, so Mexican instruments. And I created a mic mixer for this one because we recorded multiple mic positions. And this one also features a guitar fingerboard as well because there are some guitar instruments in the collection. And you can see that I'm using the same interface elements that I used in Dulcius. So both El Mariachi and Dulcius are sharing the same code, so I didn't have to keep rewriting the same code for each project. I was able to reuse the elements I needed and then add unique things like the fingerboard to El Mariachi. I've also created an effects plugin called Sordina, and this one uses a mixture of images and scripting. So the majority of what we're seeing here is scripting, so like the knobs, the peak meter, the little slider here. That's all done using scripting. There's no images for that. But these shadows and the background, they're using an image file. And to get around the resizing issue, I've actually used multiple images at different scales to fit different monitors. And in the scripting, I've set it up so it will detect the size of the monitor being used, detect the window size, and load in the closest image. So it was a bit of a compromise. I'd have rather not used images, but it was kind of difficult to avoid it with the look that I was going for here. So this is just a small selection of the kind of projects that are possible using HISE. One thing all of these have in common is they required some scripting. A lot of scripting in some cases, not so much in others. Now you can do plenty in HISE without adding any scripts to your projects, but at some point you're going to hit a wall in terms of what's possible. So if you want to be able to include more advanced functionality or have detailed control over the behavior of your project, you're going to need to at least dip your toes into scripting. So I'm going to post another video in a couple of days just to show you the first sort of baby steps with scripting, how it works in HISE, what the paradigm is, and how you can use the built-in scripts. So HISE does come with some of its own scripts, and those are what I'm going to be showing you. So leave a comment below this video and tell me if you use any of the plugins that we've looked at today, or tell me about any other HISE-based plugins that I haven't covered that you're using. So that's it for this one. Thank you for joining me, and keep an eye out for the next video.